because like I could have just said, oh, go and practice this, but I just wanted you to really commit to it or show commitment to what we are doing. And to some, it's very easy. It's something they can do in a couple of minutes. To others, it might be challenging depending on your level. But one of the things that the assignment is supposed to help us know is help me know is your level, so I know how to move the class and what direction it should go per time. But from the people I got, I noticed a lot of people, not a lot. From the people I got, one person showed like an advanced level of knowledge in Java using print formats and what's not. The other person was just very basic. That's just my yes, it's being recorded. Yes, so that's just my assumption or what I think. So it helps me to know the level of each individual per time. So it will help me better know how to, if I have more people that is not at like at an advanced level, so to say, I would slow down the class a bit so we can carry everybody along. Then if I have more people that is advanced, it will also help me to know how to position the class so they don't get bored and feel like they are not getting anything from the class. So that's why I give those assignments. It's not because I just want you guys to be busy. It's not, this is not a Nigerian school that just want to give assignments in the name of giving assignments. And I also want to believe that everybody has installed Java and installed Java on their system, number one, and also installed IntelliJ, because that's our programming editor of choice in this course. So I'll go ahead and share my screen now. And yeah, there's another thing I would do. I think I will create a repo where all the things that we are doing topic by topic, I would have these guys in a package, in sort of a package, say data types, something like this, and move this guy in there, refactor. Am I using it anyway? Yeah, refactor. Let's move it. So, and then the other topic that we will talk about, I'll also make it. So today we are talking about methods. Some people, like I said, I have my own biases or way of thinking. Some people would argue, or the courses I've taken, once they are done with data types, they go straight into conditions and loops before even getting to functions. But because of how Java is structured, I usually prefer to go the other way around. I teach the data types and then I start off with the methods, because everything you are doing, I want it to actually be in a method, in an organized way. When I'm not trying to teach you everything there is in Java, but I am trying to get you familiar with Java in a way that you will be, maybe when you get employed as a Java developer, you would be familiar with what is happening. That is my goal with this class. So let's start with what a method is. Can anyone tell me what they think a method is?
All right. Let me try and. Okay. How do I go?
Hello, anyone can go ahead. I'm not seeing anybody. If you're raising your hand and waiting for me to call you, I'm I am not seeing anyone.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Okay, a method, which is also called like a function, is
Yeah.
actually a a block of code used to carry out a specific task. Um, how do I put it now? I'm trying to like place it in a normal, is simple way. It's to
Yeah.
carry out simple tasks over and over again. Make carry out a repetitive task basically, right? So that's
Okay.
what. Yeah.
Uh, okay. That's partially correct because function doesn't necessarily have to be for carrying out a repetitive task. That in that case, you might be talking about loop in a sense. But does any other person have anything to say? So, or I should just go ahead and define it. Okay, so a function basically is like you said, a block of code that performs a specific task. It doesn't have to be repetitive, it performs a specific task. And one of the things that one of the reasons why functions are important is it helps us to write a code that can be reused in multiple places, right? Without having to write the same code over and over again. It helps us to write reusable code and also organize our code in a sort of in a bundle, right? And for Java, everything we are doing, most things that is in Java, apart from the primitive data type, is object. So for us to work with those objects or get access to them, it's mostly through a method, though there are some aspects that you can just get direct access depending on the design, on the design pattern that the developer is following. You can just get a straight access to a variable, but it's not advised. People should always get access to your variable, pass values to your variable using um, methods. And in those instances where a developer decides that they want people to just get access to their variable, it means they have to now define the method, the variable as a static in the sense that it's something that cannot be changed. You cannot assign another value to it. Static final, you cannot assign another value to it. They have assigned a value, you just use whatever thing that is there. We would get to those. And then to kick off this class, there's something I forgot to teach the other in our class the other time. It's assessors in Java. There are different types of assessors in Java, and so there are 4 types of assessors in Java. So basically there is oh shit. There is there's public. This guy, can I just do the to do thingy here? And it gives that color. Does it give them? I'm thinking, I don't know if you guys can see this when I am typing. Can you let me know if you can see this?
Yeah, you can see.
Okay, it's actually strange that he didn't have access to this. So okay, so there's public in Java, there is protected. Yeah, this one protected is not protected. There is private, and there is what they call defaults. You can either use the default this thing, or you can just, anyways, I'll show you. You can just create it without passing anything. So you can use the default keyword, or you can use create it without passing maybe any of these 3. It will just take the default assessor by, will I say, by default again. So this public keyword or assessor means it can be accessed from anywhere. It's open for anyone to access it from anywhere. right? So okay, so this other guy, protected, means it can be accessed within the same package and then your subclass, right? It can be accessed within the, so this is package in Java. So if we have another class here that is inside this package, that is the class that can access anything that we maybe a method or a variable that we use protected to start. So accessed within same package or subclass. So subclass is when we get to OOP2, we would explore it more. But subclass is when a class is inheriting from another class. If you have any experience with any OOP language, you would know what inheritance is. So basically, a subclass, you are using inheritance. So to inherit another, so let's say if another class is actually inheriting this methods class, that class is called the subclass of the methods. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes.
All right. So for private, it can only be accessed within the class that it's created. It can only be accessed within the class that it's created, right? So if we say a method or a field is private, it means it's only within this class that we want it to be used. But what now happens if someone wants to use a passive value in a variable and it's in this class? That's where one of the use cases of method comes in, right? Use cases of method. They can pass they can have access to that, or to how do I say? They can have access to pass value to that variable. Let's say private variable, private string name, right? If you want to have access to this guy in say this guy, this data type, you will not. But if we have a method that says, okay, maybe set name method, we'll get to all those setters and getters method. If you have a set name method in this guy, so you can still pass a name value here using that setter method. So that's what it means. But on its own, you cannot call it and pass method and pass value to it. But if we say that this is public, it means anywhere you can just pass value, anywhere you are, even in this place, even from another class entirely, you can always pass value to it. So then default is accessed only within the same package. So if I say that this method, a method or a field is a default, it can only be accessed within other classes that is within this methods package. Don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. All right. So so how do we define or create a method in Java? How do we create a method in Java? Like if you remember what I said, there's always what's this called again? There's always a data type associated to anything you are creating in Java. You can't just come and create something and say, oh, I want to declare a method, but you don't want to specify the data type. You must specify the data type. It can even either be a specific data type, say let's say string or integer or whatever, or it can be void. Just tell me that, okay, it's not returning anything, but even that void is quote and unquote a data type. So number one thing you do is to declare your access modifier. That's the number one thing you do to create a method in Java, right? Then next, this is also called, I don't know if it's called access modifier too. You can decide, this is how do I specify this? It's actually an access modifier. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. You can decide if you want your method to be static. I will tell you the behavior it has when it's static. I'll show you that. Then another thing is your return type. Your return type is very important, which is the data type we talked about. It can be void, it can be string, integer, whatever thing. It can also be another class. Another class can actually be your return type. So then the next one is the name of your method. Name of your method. Then the next one is your parameters. Parameters. So this is how you define your method. Of course, in Java, it is very important you add your method body, this curly brackets. You can't even create a method without having it in it. So let's say we want to create a method that adds two numbers, right? So we have public, which is our accessor here, right? Then what is the return type? We want it to return integers. So integers. Then the name, add numbers. So this is naming convention in Java. In Python, you go something like this. Naming convention doesn't mean your code will not compile. It's just that if another Java developer comes to your code, you'll be like, who is this Python developer that is writing code for me? You know. So this is the convention. Then you pass the values. You pass the value, say your value A, and let me just use tab. Your value A and B, which is what you want. You want the person, when the person wants to add, give me these numbers. This is what I am expecting from you. Then you come here and then return. Of course, return keyword. If your return type is void, you don't need this. You just need to do this plus this, and please sorry. And okay, yeah. Because of course, because we need to capture whatever thing that is happening here. So we'll just do like results equals int results equals this plus this. So we can print it out. But because we want to return something, we do integer, then we do the return. We use the return keyword. So this way, after this method has run, it gets us the sum of A and B. Let's try it out. So do you think if I call, okay, let me do this. It's not even saying it. Okay, let me do it. So why do you think this thing is giving me an error? Even though I am passing, let me pass the 2 plus 2 parameter. I've passed it. Can anyone tell me why it's giving me this error? Okay, let me.
Because
Okay.
it's called outside.
Again.
I think because it's called outside of the main function, the main method.
It's called the main method. No, I don't think that's the answer. Who else want to?
Well, is it because it is not a static method? It's an instant
Exactly. It is not a static method. So you can't just call a non-static method inside a static method. And you also can't call a static method inside a non-static method, right? They don't go hand in hand. So if you want to call this guy, you have two options. Call it as an object of this class, call it through an object of this class, this methods class, or make this guy a static method. So if we want to call it through an object of a class, we can. I just noticed something I did. I don't know why I did this big S at the end instead of just small s. So you say methods. Don't worry so much about this. When we get to OOP, I will explain everything that is happening here, right? So what we are trying to do here is just to create an object of this our methods class, so we can use it and access this method that is here without having this issue. So we do methods dot add. You see, the error is gone. The error is gone. We are not having that error again. This is just a one return value of method is never used. Okay, that's a difference. So, but do you understand what we just did now? Does it make sense?
Okay.
Okay. So if we don't want to use this guy, which I wouldn't like to use, I'll just make this guy a static. So that way, but if I print this, if I call this guy, it will not print anything on my terminal because we are not printing. Return keyword is not the same thing as printing something. It's different. So I will have to either pass a value, or I will have to either pass it into a variable, or I'll just copy it. Oh, it will give me that static issue again. I'll have to wrap it. Okay, let's do it this way. Results. So if we run this guy, it gives us the sum or the added numbers. Yeah, so this is our result. The result is 4. Is anyone confused and have any question they want to ask? Please go ahead. I am not seeing, if you're raising your hand, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. Okay, so I just want to be clear. You said for a project, sorry, a package. A package is the whole project, is it? Or just a folder? And then I want to ask, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, then I want to be sure everything you will be writing, any folder created has to be in the source folder.
Has to be what? I didn't hear you.
In the source, the SRC.
Yes, it has to be in the source folder.
Okay.
So package is not like the whole project. It's just it's just how you organize your code, right? This is your project. It's, if you even see, it looks slightly different. There's this one is called so your project is called a module. So you can see here there is some sign, that blue sign there, to show you that it's different. Then this other guy, you see it looks different. This is your package. It's just for you to organize your code. It's mostly used for organizing similar codes that is similar. For example, if you're working on a project that, let's say a hospital management project, right? You want to now have models for your doctor, for the patients, for the hospital, all those kind of stuff. You can create a model package and use it to arrange everything that you are creating that is a model in that same package. That's just what a package is.
Oh, okay, sir.
Any
Thank
other
you.
question? Okay. So So when we are working with a method, we should bear in mind. Okay, there are different types of method. Let me just get there first. There are different types of method, so there are, of course, like we have seen, static and non-static methods. This is a non-static method. I'll just copy this guy. Can someone tell me why I'm able to use these two guys? Why I'm able to use the same name to create this?
Method overload.
You are the chief developer here. So this is called method overloading. It's one of the ways we can manipulate or use the same name for our method, because there are in some cases where when I am working on a project, I would have what's it called, a need for something to just, I don't want to repeat myself so much, but then I've used maybe the name, or okay, so I'm using this method somewhere to add two numbers, and in another place I want to add an extra field, or be able to add, like in this case now, this is a double. I want to be able to add a double, but I don't want to use the same, because if we use the same thing, the values that will come back will be different. So there is okay, let me do this guy. Int results, then do double results. Even though we are passing the same this thing here, even though we're passing like single values here, let me be sure. Oh, it didn't call this guy here. Still didn't call it. Let me see. Let me specifically call. Yeah. So I wanted to give an example. I don't think this will allow us to, but even though if we are calling the same, if we are passed the same in a station where we want to, let me just give that example. I want to force this guy to do it. It's still giving me these. Yeah. So you see, we are just passing an integer value, but once, so to say, we're expecting to have a double response, like our results should be in a double format. In a scenario like that, we want to do what we call method overloading, which allows us to have a method that has the same name. That's what method over. It has the same name, but different parameters. It can even, I think it can even have the same return type, but just having these different parameters, it allows us to have that. But in our case, we want to return, of course, we want to add it and return a different what's it called? We want to add it together and return this double as our result. So Java allows us to have this kind of scenario. So for us to use this guy, I think for it to know which one to pick, we can just add a C, and when we uncomment this guy, we can add another extra number here. So you see, even though they are the same name, but because of difference in their parameters, Java allows it. There is another thing called constructor overloading too. We'll get to that. So both of them runs. Oh, I need SRs. I can just, oops. Oh, I didn't even know I was using this guy self. Didn't know this is what I was using. Okay. So even though we are using the same name, but it's actually two different methods. So that's one thing that we can achieve using method overloading. There's another one called overriding, method overriding. I wouldn't get into that because we'll still get back to this method topic again when we get to OOP. By then we'll be able to understand it much better. I just wanted us to do a bit of it. So by tomorrow, when we start the conditional statements and loops, I don't want to be getting questions like, oh, why are you using this thing here? Why is it like this? That's why I just did this introductory class on method. By the time we go into OOP, would learn about method overriding. But let me just give a theoretical explanation. So overriding a method is when this class now, for example, inherits this other guy. If there's a method that exists in data type, so let's say to inherit in Java, you do extends data type. So if it has a method, you can use that method, or you can call that method here by just adding the @override annotation on top of it. It won't, of course, it will tell you this because there's no such method in the other class. So that's what method overriding is. It allows you to reuse a method that exists in another class or interface. By the time we get there, you would understand. So those are the different ways we can work with methods in Java. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Yeah, I have a question now. Is on this
Sure.
is on this override aspect now. Basically, let's say you're not extending or inheriting from another class, right? Is it advisable to do this? Because, for example, in that, now, this won't actually work. It will throw you an error if you're having the same name.
Name.
Like,
oh, okay.
It will actually throw you an error that is actually being used somewhere. So now the reason I'm asking this is because, for example, let's say I'm using this add number in this particular class or this particular package, and now let's say I have, like, my code is like long, you understand? Like I have like, let's say 100 lines of code or 150 lines of code here, and I have this function in line 10, right? Now coming to line 90, I don't know, I created a add number, whatever, and now also add number, right? So what happens in that scenario? Won't there be a clash? Because basically, if it's in that, like if it's in that, I tell you, if you find this thing somewhere, get another name. Yeah, but basically, I don't want to override what the first method you get. I just want to just have another method, but I've forgotten that I named the first method add number, and I'm coming down here to name this method add number.
So this guy here is actually not overriding. It's called overloading.
Oh, sorry, overloading.
Yeah, overloading. Not so. Overriding is different from what we are doing here. So overriding is when a method exists here and you want to use it in this other guy, or you want to do, let me quickly do a demonstration. Java class, let's say user interface. It's user interface. Let's just call it user interface. So this guy has a void method called set name. And then we come here. Please, though, this will confuse some people, but please just keep your question. By the time we get to OOP in some weeks' time, you will understand everything I am doing here. So we'll now say implement some user interface. Of course, it will first of all force you to use the class, because when you are doing using interface, you have to implement the method. There's a way to navigate this part, but you set this guy, you see it comes with override. So this override keyword here is just telling you that this method was not originally for this guy. It's coming from somewhere, right? It's coming from somewhere. If you click on it, it takes you to if you click on this place, it takes you to where it's coming from. It's telling you this. Once you see override, you just know when anywhere you see override in Java, just know that the method is not originally from this class. So for your question, I think maybe you are mistaking something. For your question, you know, languages are different. Language is different. When you come to Java, you do what is permitted in Java. Like you said, in that, they might tell you, oh, this method name is already in use. Java allows you to, once you change just the type, you can have a string here and then have an integer here. And this one too, you want to have this add number again. Once you change one of the type, Java says, okay, we are fine. It's now left for you when you pass your value, because how it now knows the one you are talking about is when you pass the value. If you pass a string here, it knows that it's this one that has a string. That if you are calling it and you pass a string, it knows that it's this one that has a string that you are calling. If you pass double, it knows, okay, let me leave this other guy, yo. Is this one that has double, that has, like, you can have something like this. It will know that, oh, it's this other one that has, if we add something, this guy, oh, because of the return type, it can't go. Let's say void. That means I'll have to now do results here. Results equals, which was have to be a string. So when you pass, even though they are the same name and they have the same number of values they are passing, it's not the same. Like, it's literally not the same because the data type is different. Java allows that. It can be confusing if you are coming from a different language that has a different behavior, but this is how Java is built. This is how their what's it called? Their compiler is built. It allows you. So if you get to a place and defines the exact method with the same with exact this thing, like the same data type, the same number of parameters here, that's where you will have problem. It will now tell you, know, that there's another method using this name. We can experiment it. We can just say, okay, copy this guy, bring it here. You see, already defined in method. Already defined in methods, right? This is the same issue. This is the same like sort of error you get in that, Abby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only difference is if this guy now say here is actually string, it goes, because now it's not the same again. At least in the brain of Java, it's no longer the same, because these two things are not the same. The data types are not the same. So it just it can be confusing if you are coming from another language that has a different behavior, but this is how Java does its own thing. Does anyone have any other question? Okay, so there's another method. There's another method called recursive method. I think it's actually the same in every language. There's a recursive method in every language. So a recursive method is just basically a method that calls itself, right? So if you have solved factorial in any programming language, it's most likely that you would use a recursive method. So let's take, for example, public int factorial. So public int factorial, yeah. So we first of all do our base check, right? If our n equals 0, we just return if it's not. Now this, oh, okay, it's even suggesting it for me. So basically this method here is calling itself, right? That's what we call recursive method. This method is a recursive method. Method. So a method that calls himself is if you even see here, you would that's one thing I like about IntelliJ. It gives you symbols and all just for you to also understand or see what is happening. You see that once you are calling it, it shows you something that is different, and you hover over it, it says recursive call. This method is calling itself. It's that's a type of method that we can declare in Java. So another thing, when it comes to methods, there are lots of built-in methods, just like in every other language. There are lots of built-in methods. So if we go to this math.class, there's a lot of, on this one alone, there's a lot of methods that we can utilize to do mathematical functions. And when you are working with strings too, you also have let's say string a equals this a tab. So if you call this a now and say dot, these are all the methods that you get attached to a string. You can turn it to uppercase, lowercase, and what's not. So those are methods. If you go into them, I think some of them you even see that they use what's it called, method overloading in them. Okay, yeah, exactly. So you see this get bytes, it's the same name, but you are seeing, if you now go inside, oh, you don't even need to go inside. This one, it takes a string, type string. This other one takes a char set. This other one takes standard char set. So even though they have the same, this one doesn't even take any kind of thing. It just returns the value that gets the bytes for you, even though it has the same name. But just because it has different parameters, it allows you, by design, Java allows it. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So why I actually chose this is because when we start working on our next class will be tomorrow. So when we start doing our conditions and loops and all, would most likely, not most likely, we will be using methods a lot. So I'll create a method, use it to do a particular function, and also the same thing I'll be asking and engaging you guys to. So that's why I decided to spend some time on this. Please, the link I shared, I can't remember who asked me for the link. I think it's Ayodele. Yeah, I remember. So the link I shared, if you guys can go there and read on methods and possibly on conditional statements and loops, that would help us a lot for tomorrow's class. So I don't, waste a lot of time. We can even be more of a question and answer. You ask me questions about what you've read and I'll answer that. I think that would be more beneficial if you try it out yourself and see how it works. Do we have any questions? We have 5 more minutes. If you have any other questions, you can ask me then. No questions? All right. So does anyone have any question? Go ahead, please. Okay, so I would send in the assignments on this thing, just basic stuff, things that we covered, and maybe some other things that would make you do a little research, and you would see from that page that I shared earlier, just things that will help you understand what is happening on this topic. And mind you, this is just an intro to methods. This is not all there is to methods in Java. There is other things that we didn't cover. So by the time we get to OOP and we start discussing OOP, you will understand further some of the things that we did and the reason that I didn't mention it. So it does it for now. I will create a repo for this. I should have done that earlier. I'll create a repo for this and push this guy. Any updates that we'll have on it will be added. So you can always go back and look at the code or the things we worked on together. And like I did initially, I will also add the video on YouTube so we can go back and watch it and see and the discussions that we'll have. All right, if there is no question, this is where we'll end today's class. So let me stop recording. How many people do we have here? Oh, 6. I think we increased from the last time. See all the people that accepted the meeting link and they, Jesus Christ. Okay. I want to believe they have a legitimate reason for not coming. But it's all good.